خير الخلق قدوتنا. تعال وزر وشاركنا وقم بالخير سابقنا. لقانا في ابن تيمية وخير الخلق قدوتنا. لقانا في ابن تيمية وخير الخلق قدوتنا. لقانا في ابن تيمية وخير الخلق قدوتنا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله المحمود على كل حال، ونعوذ بالله من حال أهل الضلال، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الكبير المتعال، وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم المآل. أما بعد. The next statement of the author of furu al-fiqh pertains to tahara, and specifically to sunan of tahara. He says, وَتَخْلِيلُ الْأَصَابِعِ وَاللِّحْيَةِ, which means permeating water between the fingers and the beard. Takhleel, and keep that in mind throughout this class, because we're going to use it inshallah. Takhleel means to permeate or run the wet fingers through the beard or through the fingers. And when we say fingers, we mean by that also it encompasses the toes, as we'll see inshallah. So under that statement, we have three main factors we need to discuss: takhleel of the fingers and how it's performed, takhleel of the toes and how that's performed, and takhleel of the lihya, the beard, and how that's performed. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, started with the fingers, and we'll start with that as well. He said, وَتَخْلِيلُ الْأَصَابِعِ وَاللِّحْيَةِ. We're at وَالْأَصَابِعِ. وَتَخْلِيلُ الْأَصَابِعِ, which means permeated water between the fingers. And that is a sunnah that's mentioned in numerous ahadith. The most authentic of those ahadith is hadith Laqit ibn Sabira, where he asked the messenger, or actually before that, that hadith is mentioned in Sunan Abu Dawood and Sunan al-Tirmidhi and Sunan al-Nasa'i and Sunan Ibn Majah, and also in Musnad Ahmad, and it's authenticated by al-Tirmidhi and Ibn Khuzaymah and al-Hakim among others, where Laqit ibn Sabira radiyallahu an asked the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam pertaining to wudu, and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, asbigh al-wudu, perform the wudu fully and completely. وَخَلِّلْ بَيْنَ الْأَصَابِعِ, permeate the water between the fingers. وَبَالِغْ فِي الْإِسْتِنْشَاقِ إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ صَائِمًا, and exaggerate snuffing up water unless you are fasting. Permeating water between the fingers was also related or mentioned or done by many of the Salaf, like Al-Mustawrid ibn Shaddad al-Fihri and Ibn Abbas and Wa'il ibn Hijr and Abu Ayyub and Abu Bakr and Umar and his son and Ibn Mas'ud and Ikrimah and Al-Hasan al-Basri radiyallahu anhum jami'a. Actually, we don't know of any of the Salaf or Tabi'een who left out the takhleel between the fingers during wudu. Some who did not narrate it within the description of the hadith that they related to us, it could have been, and it's most likely due to the fact that they did not deem it as a wajib. Keep in mind though, it becomes a wajib for someone who didn't get the water to reach in between their fingers. It's only sunnah when water reaches between the fingers, meaning you have to let the water reach in between the fingers regardless. How it's performed? Al-Hanafiyyah and Al-Shafi'iyya and Al-Hanabila, they said it's done by interlacing the fingers with each other. And they used hadith Laqit ibn Sabira. They said the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned takhleel, and takhleel means to put something into something, and that's more accurately done by interlacing the fingers with each other. So some said interlacing the fingers with each other, and some others said it's using one finger in between the other fingers. That's pertaining to the fingers. The next one is takhleel pertaining to the toes. And on that matter, there's some hadith, like hadith Uthman radiallahu anh, that's on the authority of Abu Wa'il. رَأَيْتُ عُثْمَانَ ibn Affan يتوضأ ثلاثا ثلاثا وغسل قدميه ثلاثا ثلاثا وغسل أنامله وخلل لحيته وغسل أنامله. It specifies the takhleel between the toes. There's other ahadith pertaining to the takhleel of the toes. Those ahadith are all weak that specify the toes. However, the hadith pertaining to washing in between the fingers in general, even though they don't specify the toes of the feet in specific, they're included and they fall under the general ahadith we mentioned, like the hadith of Laqit ibn Sabira. Yes, hadith Laqit ibn Sabira only mentions asabi', which means the fingers. And it's usually, generally, the hand fingers. But it also includes the toes by analogy of similarity. Not only does hadith Laqit ibn Sabira encompass by analogy the toes, but it's more certain to apply to the feet, because dirt and najasa and lack of cleanliness generally stick to feet more than they do the fingers of the hands. And they're usually neglected there. When a hand gets dirty, someone usually rushes to wash it. Unlike the foot that may accumulate dirt or have lack of cleanliness that may be disregarded or that may go unnoticed. So it's more essential to do takhleel of the toes with the water in the fingers. There's also some narrations by some of the Sahaba who did it, like Ibn Umar and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhum. How is it performed? The overwhelming majority of the four madhahib, al-Hanafiyya, wal-Malikiyya, wal-Shafi'iyya, wal-Hanabila, they say it's using the khinsar. The khinsar is the term used for the pinky. They said you use the pinky to do takhleel between the toes because of hadith al-Mustawrid ibn Shaddad radiyallahu anh, where he said, رَأَيْتُ النَّبِيَّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم إِذَا تَوَضَّأَ دَلَكَ أَصَابِعَ رِجْلَيْهِ بِخِنصَرِهِ. That hadith shows how the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam did takhleel with his khinsar. Ibn Qudama mentioned that hadith and he hinted that it's weak, but he used its meaning and he said it's mustahab to rub water between the toes using the method in that hadith. And he said you start with the right foot. The right foot by sticking the pinky of the left hand between the toes, starting from the pinky toe of the right foot, in order all the way until you reach to the big toe. And then you continue with the big toe of the left foot. This is the left foot, this is the big toe. You continue with the big toe of the left foot in order until you reach the pinky of the left foot. It may be following the weak hadith, but it gets support because it's going in order from right all the way to left. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved starting from right in everything, specifically purification, as we'll mention in a hadith coming up with us. And also, it's the way some ulama recommended. Some Hanabila actually said use the pinky from the bottom of the foot. And there's actually a narration in Musannaf ibn Abi Shaybah where Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma rubbed and put his finger, all his fingers actually, in between his toes. So these are the toes. He went and put all his fingers in between them together. One thing that must be noted before I forget is that there's many ahadith on takhleel of the fingers, promising a punishment for one who does not perform that. But they're all weak. Every single one of them is weak. We took takhleel between the fingers and the toes and how it's done. The next one after that is takhleel of the lihya. And before we get into that, you have to understand that the beard itself is two types. There's the light beard that can be where the skin can be visibly seen through it. In that case, the skin must be washed through the beard. Like when they have a little bit of hair or a little bit hair, it's either first growing out initially, or some people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them like that. So takhleel through a beard like that, or wiping over that with water, is not sufficient. It must be washed fully. That's according to all four of the Imams. The skin under it must be washed fully, and that's according to all four of the Imams. When it's a dense, thick beard, where one can't see the skin under it, then you wash the face, and when you wash the face, you wash over the beard. You wash over the beard. And Nawawi rahimahullah said there's no dispute that a thick, dense beard should be washed over. Meaning, you take water, you wash the face, and you wash over the outer layer of the beard. When it's a thick, dense beard, you don't have to wash the inside of the beard, the inside, nor do you have to wash the skin under it. That's the opinion of the overwhelming mass majority of the ulama and the Sahaba and Tabi'een, and some even related an ijma' on that. Ibn Rushd rahimahullah ta'ala said, I don't know of any dispute on this matter. The next issue is takhleel al-lihya. Takhleel of the lihya, running the fingers through the beard. Permeating the beard with your wet fingers. The first issue pertaining to that is it wajib or sunnah or makruh? The majority of the ulama of Hanafiya and Shafi'iyya and Hanabila, and one of two opinions within the Maliki madhab, they say it's sunnah. It's sunnah to do takhleel of the dense thick beard with water and the fingers. They said running the fingers through the beard is not mentioned in the verse pertaining to wudu. The verse that mentions wudu in the Quran does not have permeating the beard with your fingers. And they said most of the narrations describing wudu of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam don't mention that detail. And the ones who mention it are weak. So we'll take it as a sunnah, not as a wajib. The hadith in Sunan Ibn Majah, it's on the authority of Uthman, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم توضأ فخلل لحيته. توضأ فخلل لحيته. The messenger performed wudu and ran his fingers through his beard. Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala قال هذا أصح حديث في الباب. Bukhari said this is the most authentic hadith in this matter. That's not authenticating it. That's merely saying it's the strongest among the weak hadith. And we went over this matter, I believe, in our series on Al-Ghuraba that we did on Al-Ghuraba. I mentioned this issue. It's like walking into a hospice care unit where you see everyone in their last stages of their life. And you pass by one of those people whose eyes are open and you say, he's the healthiest person in this unit. Is he healthy? He's not healthy. He's in his final stages of life. But he's among others who are in a worse condition than him. That hadith is weak, and there's many different narrations. In fact, there's nearly 20 hadith pertaining to this matter. Not a single one of them is authentic. What's referenced here pertaining to the authenticity of these hadith over here, pertaining to the takhleel of the beard, the concept is nearly identical to what we mentioned pertaining to the hadith about the tasmiyah prior to wudu. They're weak and they're not at the level of strengthening each other. That's the bottom line. Ibn Abi Hatim said, I asked my father about this matter, about takhleel al-lihya, running the fingers through the beard during wudu, and he said there was nothing authentic on this matter. There's no ahadith authentic on this matter. In Masail Abi Dawood, Imam Ahmad was asked the same question about takhleel al-lihya, and he encouraged it. He said, yes, you can do it. But at the same time, he said there's many narrations and they're all weak. Even though Tirmidhi and Ibn Khuzaymah and Al-Hakim and Ibn Hibban and others authenticated some of the narrations, it's clear what Imam Ahmad and Abi Hatim said is more correct, that there's really nothing authentic on this matter. So the first opinion is it's permissible or mustahab, meaning sunnah. The second opinion is in At-Tamheed, and it's attributed to Imam Malik, that he considered it makruh. He considered takhleel al-lihya makruh, disliked. And why? He actually has a strong argument. He said because there's no authentic hadith on this matter. And had it been part of wudu, it would have been narrated in an authentic hadith. The third opinion is that it's wajib. It's wajib to do takhleel of the lihya during wudu. And it's attributed to the madhab of the Malikiyya, and it's the opinion of Ata and Abu Thawr and Ishaq bin Rahawayh. He said, in one of his statements, he said, if one does not run his fingers through his beard, meaning do takhleel, he should repeat the wudu, implying that his wudu is not accepted. And their proof for this is the hadith pertaining to this matter. The hadith that we said are weak, and they took those hadith to be a wajib. So the first opinion is that it's sunnah. The second opinion is disliked. The third opinion, it's wajib. What's ar-rajih in this mas'ala? What's the selected or correct opinion? The third opinion, that it's wajib, is the weakest. It couldn't be wajib because the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a thick beard, and there's nothing authentic that he ran his blessed wet fingers through his blessed beard during wudu, nor did he order that sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The fact that there's so many authentic hadith that describe the wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and none that are authentic that mention this matter, shows that it cannot be wajib. The correct opinion would have been Imam Malik's opinion in At-Tamheed, that it's makruh, because his reasoning is very strong. But what would remove it from being disliked is that it's actually proven by more than one Sahabi that they did takhleel of the beard, and we don't know anyone who opposed them. Ibn Abi Shaybah said, among the Sahaba who are known to have done or conveyed the takhleel of the lihya is Ibn Abbas and Anas ibn Malik and Ibn Umar and Uthman and others. And from the Tabi'een, Abu Qulaba and Al-Dhahhak and Mujahid and Ibn Sirin and Ibrahim al-Nakha'i and Sa'id ibn Jubair and Ibn Qudama. When he mentioned this, he mentioned some of those names to back the issue up. And in addition to those, he mentioned Al-Hasan al-Basri and Ata ibn Sa'ib and Ibn Abi Layla. The next issue is how is it done? From what I gathered from the books of fiqh is that it's one of the ways is Arkul Aridain. And that's been narrated from Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. Arkul Aridain is to go through the sides. Another one is running the fingers all over, especially from the front. يغلغل بيده في أصول شعره. Go through the front. The third one is going from the back. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala was asked, how is takhleel done? He said from under the beard, from behind the beard, one does the takhleel. سألت الإمام أحمد عن التخليل فأراني من تحت لحيته فخلل بالأصابع. The purpose is to run the fingers within the beard and not to wash it, nor to reach the skin under the beard. Another issue, a quick issue under this matter is takhleel done when washing the face or when wiping the head? Abu al-Harith said that asked Imam Ahmad pertaining to that issue, and he said it's up to that individual whether he wants to do it when he washes his face or when he wipes his head. The rest, in the majority of the ulama, and it's probably more correct, is that when it's washing the face, ulama usually mention this issue under the washing of the face. And there's no proof to do it when wiping the head. There's no hadith on that, nor any action by the Sahaba to back that up. Another issue, washing the beard, washing. We said washing over the thick beard when we talked about the thick beard. But washing the beard, as in washing it fully, is not a sunnah in wudu. It's not from the action of the Sahaba. There's no proof on it. In fact, it's wrong. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala said washing the beard in wudu is not a sunnah. Some misunderstand a statement by Sa'id ibn Jubayr rahimahullah ta'ala where he said, why do people wash their beards before it grows, yet when it grows, they no longer wash it? And they infer from that he's actually recommending washing the beard in wudu, but that's a wrong misunderstanding of the statement. The ulama said he meant takhleel with the fingers. And he didn't mean fully washing it. And how do we know that for a fact? Because Abu Ishaq said, I saw Sa'id ibn Jubayr performing wudu and he ran his fingers through the beard during his wudu. Another quick issue is that there's nothing authentic on the number of times one runs his fingers through the beard, the takhleel. There's no proof from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nor the Sahaba or the early Tabi'een. One time should be sufficient. Should new water be used for the takhleel? Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar did not take new water for the takhleel. And some of the Salaf, like Al-Hasan and Nakhai, didn't think it was necessary to take new water for the takhleel. Another issue, and it doesn't pertain to the statement of the author, but the only reason I'll mention it is because the fuqaha, when they mention these topics, they put this under the sequence of these issues. And that's when one wears a ring. The overwhelming majority of the ulama of Hanafiya, Shafi'iyya, and Hanabila say it's mustahab and recommended to move the ring around, if water flows under it. Like if it's slightly loose and water flows under it. If water doesn't reach under it, then he must remove it or move it up or somehow and make sure water does reach under it. So they said it's mustahab to move it around, if water reaches under it. If water doesn't reach under it, he has to make sure water does, and they take that from the verse, وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. One must wash his hands according to the ayah all the way up to the elbow. And if he leaves any portion, no matter how small it is, no matter where it is, he's actually not doing the wudu that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the verse, وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. The next statement of the author is وَالْمُبَالَغَةُ فِي الْمَضْمَضَةِ وَالْإِسْتِنْشَاقِ. وَالْمُبَالَغَةُ فِي الْمَضْمَضَةِ وَالْإِسْتِنْشَاقِ. Exaggerating in rinsing the mouth and in snuffing the water. The proof on snuffing the water and exaggerating it is the hadith that we mentioned earlier, hadith Laqit ibn Sabira. وَبَالِغْ فِي الْإِسْتِنْشَاقِ إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ صَائِمًا. And snuff up water freely unless you are fasting. There's no proof on exaggerating rinsing the mouth, the madmada. But the ulama use qiyas, which is analogy of similarity, not the qiyas of illah. Rinsing the mouth and snuffing in the water is from the right hand. And it's inferred to be from the right hand from the hadith of Abdullah ibn Zayd describing the wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not direct, but it's inferred from it. ثم مضمض واستنشق من كفة واحدة ففعل ذلك ثلاثة. The sunnah is also to do it before the face. Rinsing and snuffing in the water is sunnah done before the face. It's the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba. And Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala said there's a ijma' that the sunnah is to do the rinsing of the mouth before the snuffing, before the istinshaq. Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, said that is a wajib. It must be done like that. Rinse in the mouth before snuffing in the water. The majority of the ulama, and possibly what's correct, is that it's sunnah. It's taken as a sunnah rather than as a wajib. Why? They considered it as one part, so it's a sunnah if you change the order in it. It's better to do the rinsing of the mouth first, then snuff it, but they said it's sunnah if you go, it's only a sunnah, not a wajib. Exaggerated rinsing the mouth, al-madmada, is defined as putting enough water in the mouth, moving it all around the mouth, left and right and up and down, and then spitting it out. Sometimes you see people using their finger, and they possibly think that's exaggerating in cleaning. But there's no proof on using the finger when rinsing the mouth, when doing a madmada, or the nose for that matter. There's no hadith on that. There's nothing authentic from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in. There is a narration that Uthman radiallahu anhu used to put his finger in his mouth when he did the madmada and clean it, but it's not an authentic one. The factors of exaggerating the madmada are three. It's idkhalul ma'i fil fam, putting the water in the mouth, tahrikuhu, moving it about, and then the third factor is majjuh, which means to spit it out. Doing the three means you fulfilled exaggerating the madmada, the rinsing. That's sufficient for the sunnah of exaggerating rinsing the mouth for wudu. That's if you do all three. Doing two of those will be acceptable for a wudu, but not sufficient enough for the sunnah of exaggerating the madmada. Meaning, if someone puts water in his mouth and then spits it out, majjuh, that would be sufficient for wudu. He didn't do all three, he just did those two. He didn't, the one he left out is moving the water in the mouth. He did those two, that's sufficient for wudu, but it's not sufficient for al-mubalagha in the wudu, in the madmada. So also, if one puts water in the mouth and moves it and then swallows it, it's acceptable because that's considered madmada in lisan al-Arab, that's considered madmada and it's acceptable. If one puts water but does not move it about and swallows it, that's not called madmada. That's not rinsing the mouth. It's called swallowing. That's not sufficient for wudu. An important note about madmada is that exaggerating does not mean that it needs to hit the back or the top of the throat. It doesn't mean one needs to gargle. That's not part of exaggerating the madmada. As we said, it's putting the water in the mouth, idkhalul ma'i fil fam, tahriku, moving it about, and then spitting it out. That's sufficient and considered exaggerating in madmada. Then comes al-istinshaq, which is to snuff or inhale the water to the furthest point of the nose. Exaggerating snuffing is defined as snuffing in the water, forcibly drawing in the water, to the point short of swallowing it. After that, it's sunnah to do istinthar, which is blowing the water out from the nose, and it's also referred to as zafir. It's more properly done by putting in the water with the right hand and blowing it out with the left hand. The least accepted form of istinshaq to be proper for wudu, not exaggerating, is for water to go in any way possible. For example, if someone wets a cloth or a tissue and puts it in the nose, that's fine. It's not fine for exaggerating it, for mubalagha in it, but fine for the wudu. Wetting the finger and putting them in the nose, That's sufficient. That's the least, but not enough for al-mubalagha in al-istinshaq. That may be good for somebody who may have a sensitive nose or some kind of illness. The next statement or word of the author is was-siwak, cleaning the teeth. And there's no dispute that using the miswak for wudu is mustahab. There's the hadith of Abu Huraira radiyallahu an, or many hadith on it, but the hadith of Abu Huraira, that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك مع كل وضوء. مع كل وضوء. And that hadith is in Musnad Ahmad, Sunan Nasa'i, and Muwatta Malik. And al-Bukhari mentioned it mu'allaqan. The meaning of the hadith is, had I not feared burden in my ummah, I would command them to use the miswak for every wudu. There's also a hadith in Sahih Muslim related by Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, فَتَسَوَّكَ وَتَوَضَّأَ ثُمَّ قَامَ فَصَلَّى, pertaining to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They used the miswak, then performed the wudu, and then he got up and offered the salah. When is it? When is the timing of the miswak? As to the precise timing one uses the miswak for wudu, there's no clear direct proof on that. The jumhur, the majority of the ulama, Malikiyya, Shafi'iyya, and Hanabila, they said ma' within the term ma' within wudu means that he rinses his mouth in wudu and then he uses the miswak within the wudu. And they use the narration in Musnad Ahmad. لَأَمَرْتُهُمْ بِالسِّوَاكِ مَعَ, with. They said with wudu means during wudu. Ma'al wudu, they said with wudu, which means during wudu. That's not really proof for that, because why? There's a hadith with a similar meaning that's related by Abu Huraira. لولا أن أشق على أمتي أو على الناس لأمرتهم بالسواك مع كل صلاة. It's in Bukhari and Muslim. If I didn't fear burden in my ummah, I would order them to use the miswak ma' with every salah. The same word ma' that was used in the wudu was used here for salah. Does that mean we use the miswak in the salah? Just like we say ma' as-salah was meant to be before as-salah, no one said ma' as-salah means in salah, so ma' al-wudu should mean the same, meaning before wudu. There's actually two narrations that say using miswak ma'a kulli salah. There's one in Bukhari, there's another one inda kulli salah, that's in Sahih Muslim. Whether it's ma' or inda, we know we do it before salah, not within salah. And the same should apply to wudu, because those are same identical terms used in both wudu and salah. In the same way we don't say we do it in the middle of salah, we don't do it in the middle of wudu. The second opinion pertaining to this matter is Shafi'iyya in a second opinion, in Malikiyya in a second opinion, in Hanafiyya is that it's before wudu. And that's the correct opinion because of a narration in Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba, لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتم بالسواك عند كل وضوء. I would have commanded them to use the miswak at the time of every wudu. عند is at, which means before. And that's more correct. It's more correct before the wudu because of what I mentioned in response to their proof. And also, had it been within wudu, it would have been mentioned in many of the descriptions of wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, like the one by Uthman or by Ali or by Abdullah ibn Zayd or the other ones, radiallahu anhum ajma'in. They wouldn't have left that out. Also, to back that up, that it's before wudu, is that there's a narration on the authority of Ali ibn Abi Talib in Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba that a person should use the miswak, then begin wudu in the clear order like that. And that adds strength to using the miswak before the wudu. Another issue is that using the miswak in wudu causes one to somewhat break the sequence of the wudu. And that's something the Sahaba would have narrated to us. And they did it. And you keep in mind that the miswak is for the teeth, for the gums, and for the tongue. So if the person lost his teeth, he still uses the miswak as a sunnah on his gums and his tongue to fulfill the sunnah. The author then went on to say, what tayamun. That'll be the final point for today, inshallah. Meaning starting washing your parts from the right side. And it's ijma' to start with the right side. That ijma' is related by An-Nawawi and Ibn Abd al-Barr and Al-Baji and other ulama. Ibn Qudam also related that ijma'. Meaning the ijma' of being a sunnah to start with the right body parts. And of course, what we mean by that, it's when there's two body parts, like the hands and the legs. In addition to the ijma', there's a hadith of Ibn Abbas in Sahih al-Bukhari that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma performed wudu and started with his right hand, and then after he finished his hands, he started with his right foot when he reached his feet, and then after he completed his entire wudu, starting with the right hand and the right foot when he reached those parts, he said after that, this is how I saw the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam make wudu. And there's also hadith Aisha radiallahu anha in Sahih al-Bukhari on that matter, where the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to like to start from the right side when wearing shoes, when combing his hair, and when cleaning, when washing, or purifying himself, and doing everything else. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعجبه التيمن في تنعله وترجله وطهوره وفي شأنه كله. And with that, we'll stop here. After this, the next statement after this, the author will begin with واجبات الوضوء. جزاكم الله خير وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.